Around a year ago, I uploaded a video documenting thoughts on every Genshin Impact character. At the end of the video, I said I'd try to keep my thoughts up to date by making follow-up videos as the game expanded. Now Sumeru has been completed, and just as I finished updating my general thoughts on every other video in this series, now seems like as good a time as any to return and assess these new characters, whilst correcting my thoughts on some older ones. Just to be clear, if a character isn't included on here, I covered them in my original video, and I just don't have anything else to add. With that said, let's get right into general thoughts on every Genshin Impact character, 2nd edition. Traveler. Sumeru did the impossible and actually made Traveler good. All of their additions until then were laughably weak, with most of them just being weaker versions of other characters. Except Geo, that wasn't too bad. But then along came Dendro, and suddenly he has his own identity, and a pretty solid one at that. Sure, he's not the best Dendro character anymore, but free off-field application with a ton of customization is really nice, so I find myself throwing him into a lot of parties. Plus, the big core is insanely well animated. I could watch that thing bounce around all day. Noelle. I vastly misjudged Noelle's role in my original vid, though it's kinda understandable. She's a great main DPS, but only once you get her up to C6. And since I desperately want to build a Geo team, I want to get her to C6, I'm not that close though. In an ideal world, you show up on a banner with Alfredo sauce soon, so I can really go all out with earthly powers, but knowing my luck, she'll be paired with Kokomi or something. Jean. It took me way too long, but I finally managed to get Jean. And after all the praise I gave for my original vid, you'd think it'd be ecstatic, but no. By the time I got Jean, I already had Sai built up to do everything she did better. Jean now just kinda sits around my barracks. I still like her and occasionally bring her over for some funnies, but I really don't see myself building her anytime soon. Diona. I originally called out how weird it was that Diona was the only cat person in Teyvat, since she raises way more questions than she really should. Well, boy was I happy when they announced Kiara, since she could finally be another part of Diona's species and make Diona look a lot less isolated. Sadly, that's not the case, since in the event that month, the two met and confirmed they are two different species. So now you have two different species of cat people running around with a single known member from each. This game's world building is weird sometimes. Fischl. Fischl is passively elevated, being one of my most used characters. I didn't really notice until I actually saw how many teams she's in, but can you really blame me? I managed to get her up to C6 with some banger artifacts and a nice weapon. And her general utility is amazing, thanks like all is constantly applying Electro. Throw in some of those quotable lines and attach to one of my favorite characters, personality wise, and yeah, it's no wonder I constantly find myself using the Princessin. Klee. I say for Klee, I got Klee. Now Klee absolutely massacres everything she can get within 6 meters of, and I'm happy. Mika. Man, Mika's reveal is really something. They revealed this new character, and he was definitely a cryo character, and then his art showed him this huge ass book. Aha! I thought, finally, the first cryo tome after all these years. Man, this is gonna be cool. Alas, how wrong I was. His trailer even started with some animations of his book, only to swap over to his spear. Man, was I disappointed. And here we are, even now, without a cryo tome. It should have been Mika, man. It should have been him. Xiao. No matter how much I like Xiao's character with his stupidly over-the-top edgy quips, nothing about this guy will amuse me more than the fact that the Slayer of Demons plays like a pogo stick. I swear, this guy is secretly the best comic relief in the game. Yunjin. I'm only doing a segment on Yunjin because I'm forced to. If it were up to me, I'd just completely skip over her, because she is a nothing character no matter how you look at her. She plays like any other support character, except she just kinda happens to have a counter for some reason. I did her story quest equivalent when it came out, and I remember absolutely nothing about it. Or her, aside from the very end of it. The only reason I can remember her at all is just because there's so few Geo characters that she's easy to keep track of in the crowd. But that's seriously the only thing keeping her from fading into total obscurity in my head. Shenhe. I can't say the same about Shenhe though. If you put a gun to my head and ask me to tell you a single thing about Shenhe other than her element and her lineage, I'd just save you the trouble and pull the trigger myself. It's not like she's as boring as Yunjin. I think there's just something about Shenhe that makes my brain entirely forget her existence if she's not in front of me. It's like she just doesn't have any object permanence in my mind. I can't really comment on her gameplay or character either, because I couldn't tell you a single thing about either. Yeah, I could look it up, but by the time I switched tabs back to the script, I'd have already forgotten everything about her again. Xinyan. The world of Genshin ever expands, and we still have no idea where the hell Xinyan's accent comes from. Truly the most mysterious character in Teyvat. Baizu. Hey, sure took you long enough. When they announced Dendro, I knew that Baizu would be one of the first ones they added. I mean, they already had a model and a voice actor at the ready. I was wrong though. For whatever reason, it took like 6 episodes to actually get the first Dendro character. Whilst I was initially excited to get him, by the time he actually came out, I kinda didn't need him, since I already had enough Dendro characters. I still tried to get him, though luck boned me once again. Maybe when it comes back I'll try to get him, but also maybe not. I mean, it took them one update to get another Dendro shield, so I doubt his uniqueness is gonna last all too long. But on the other hand, he's the only character to almost die of exhaustion every time he runs, which is absolutely hilarious, and it might legitimately be enough to get me to wish for him again. Kui. Against all odds, I am the one person on the planet who hasn't been pity broken by Kui yet. It seems like I'm the guy to have at least 8 of her now, but what do you know? Maybe the universe does throw me a bone sometimes. Yao. Tying directly to Baizu, I had some artifacts selected for the pharmacist, since I assumed he would be a healer, and temporarily put them on Yao. But as I don't have Baizu, Yao just kinda awkwardly sits around some slightly level artifacts, waiting for me to do anything with her. The chances of that happening are, slim. Yelan. I'm sure Yelan is an awesome character. I certainly have no doubt about it, and I bet I love her. Problem is, I think I still haven't actually met her. She showed up at the very end of the Chasm quest, and she's the main player in the second one of those, but somehow I still haven't done that. It's the only Archon quest that remains uncompleted. I've done all the prerequisites, and I absolutely love the Chasm and the other Archon quests it's in, so I don't see any reason why I've just left it sitting for a year now, but I just have. Thoma. On the Clee banner last year, I managed to go straight from not having Thoma to C6. Problem was, I didn't need Thoma. I already had Xinyan fully built as a Pyro Shieldy / main DPS, and I just couldn't see what else I want Thoma for, so I just sat at my barracks for a while, gathering dust. Virgin. With the introduction of Dendro as a real element, everything suddenly clicked. I had an utterly fantastic use for Thoma that make him not only good, but also really funny. And man, did it pay off. Virgin Thoma is probably my favorite team in the game. It's absolutely hilarious just how quickly this guy can melt through basically everything. Plus, it's ridiculous how much I actually poured into this guy. Just compare his EM to anybody else I have, and it's clear as day how willing I am to invest in stupid strategies. Congratulations, Thoma. You had the best arc of anybody in the game, at least for me, thanks solely to the introduction of Dendro. Sayu. As aforementioned, I got Sayu, built her up a bit, and now she rocks and rolls all over the place. Most of my Sayu praise was already dished out in my elemental reaction video of all things, but it would be wrong not to at least bring up one of my new favorite characters to screw around with. Practical? Hardly. Good? Kind of. Fun? Absolutely. Kokomi. I already wasn't too big on Kokomi after doing the Archon quest, because all it did was show me that she's a boring character who totally fails to capture my attention on her own. So I didn't have high hopes when I realized I would have to do her story quest for the second Chasm quest. But man, I was blown away with just how boring they actually managed to make it. If you want to make a bland-ass character stand out and entice the audience, what better way to do it than by having them solve small political problems with the power of paperwork and talking things out. It's like they were actively trying to make people not want this character, and paired with how they designed her in gameplay, that's actually not out of the question. But the most impressive part is, this isn't even the worst story quest, but we'll get to that soon enough. Stupid idiot fish girl sure tries her hardest for the spot though. Goru. Gotta give shoutouts to Goru real fast. Not because he's a good character, because he's absolutely not. I'm entirely convinced he's just some animated cardboard cut that people at VAT mistake for a real person. Except cardboard at least has 2 layers. But I love this guy because he is the lowest investment character in the game by a large margin. All you want to do is boost his skill a little bit and maybe level him up a few times so you can do that more. That's it. His stats don't matter, his other abilities don't matter. He's just skill, man. Good for him. He really needs something to help him stand out. Ito, the one and only, currently sits as my most wanted character, and with good reason. This guy is the funniest character in the game, no contest. Every time he stumbles into some story quest, he steals the show. Between his fantastically stupid writing and amazing voice acting, every other character fades in the background whenever he's around, and man, the stories this guy finds himself in are wild. Never thought I'd see a story quest that ends with the main character getting arrested, but leave it to the man to make it happen. I could go on. His design, his stupid ass gang of himself, one character and a bunch of NPCs, the way he builds genius invocation decks, I love everything about this guy. The only reason I don't have him presently is because his banner was run alongside Wanderers, which completely nuked my chance of getting him, but more on that later. But yeah, this guy's amazing. Hope he gets a rerun soon. For real. Kuki. Yeah, the other Artaki gang member. I like her mask, and I like her shorts. Those are about the most profound thoughts I've had on Kuki. Yai Miko. Well, by golly, by gosh, is that a purple electro-wheeling girl whose elemental skill is to deal off-field damage in application, with a burst built around using that skill to full effect and directly playing off of it? I've never seen that one before. Yeah, I like Miko as a character well enough, but there is absolutely no chance I'm gonna try to get her. Anything she can do would be a side grade to write and official both, and she also has even more similarities to both of them individually that make her even more redundant. Sorry, yeah, be more unique next time. Ayato. Hey, now here's how to do a side grade correctly. In many ways, Ayato is another version of Tartaglia, but there are enough differences between the two to make them feel totally unique. They have entirely different ways of attacking with their skill and use totally different weapons, so even though they both fill the same role of a Hydro sub DPS, Ayato feels like a nice addition to this group. It also helps that Hydro damage dealers are few and far between, while Electro sub DPS characters come out about every other update. In case you couldn't tell, I know absolutely nothing about Ayato himself. I've just been doing everything I can to avoid talking directly about him. It's like I magically avoid doing every event or quest with him, but not intentionally. I'm sure he's a cool character, but luckily the draw just decided I'll never meet him. And so did Wishing apparently. Thanks a lot, Diluc. Aizu. In my ever-growing list of not particularly good but really fun main DPS characters, Aizu currently resides at the top. Aizu's kit is so unique and fun to mess around with. Being a brawler can proc swirl on basically every hit he lands grants just as much freedom and builds as you can imagine. You can build a team around any simple reaction, throw this guy in, and suddenly be seeing the reaction happening 3 times as much, with tons of swirls in there too. Even aside from his innate attacks, Aizu's kit is a ton of fun. His chargeable big punch charges in a really smart way, and it has some really nice damage potential. As burst collecting every enemy to nice clump counters as a range weakness, it leads perfectly into a big punch. This guy is such a tightly designed character, he feels so goddamn fun to play. I swear, this game makes his most fun characters 4 stars, but I am absolutely not complaining about that. Kiara. Hey, it's the same exact idea, except executed like 20 times worse. Well, not entirely. Kiara's a shieldy support character in contrast to Aizu's main DPS, which makes me wonder why they even bother giving Kiara a unique main attack. I don't have Kiara, but I also don't see much reason to get her. Yeah, that mobility's pretty neat, but I'm pretty sure Sayu's faster, and with Venti and or Wanderer, I don't see much need for climbing up walls. Plus, as mentioned in the Diona section, Kiara really just confuses me. Like, why couldn't they just been the same race? Kale. Another entry on the ever-growing list of shy/nervous girls. I sure have a lot of ongoing lists, huh? This trope is so obscenely overdone in modern days that it's almost impossible to end up actually liking a character who falls into it. And that's exactly why I was so surprised that Kale ended up being one of my favorite characters in the game. Kale doesn't really do much to subvert this obnoxious trope, but she doesn't play into it nearly as much as I thought she did, and like most who fall into it, she actually has more stuff going on. I was wary for it at first, but after learning about her ambitions, background, disease, and connection with the Fatui, yeah, she really captivated me. She's been through a lot of suffering, more so than 95% of the cast in this game. It warmed my heart to see her adapt and get better at everything she was working at throughout the story. And, though unrelated, any character in a game who uses a boomerang is already a favorite of mine. While I was surprised that Kale enticed me so, it's most certainly a pleasant surprise, as she remains one of my favorite Sumeru characters to date. Dainari. Any possible thoughts I had on Dainari dissolved when I learned he's voiced by Greg Heffley now. That is legitimately the funniest thing ever.
Stop! Good God, man! You almost got the
Elizar.
Dory. Dory manages to land right in the center of a 3-way Venn diagram of things they look for in characters. She's a gimmicky character with a totally unique mechanic, and actually isn't too bad. Plus, Electro heroes are a rare breed, especially Donakuki. She's a money-hungry shopkeep, which is one of my favorite archetypes. Yeah, they're simple, and typically don't have much more than greed, but it's just so fun to see how they play off other characters. And finally, and most importantly, slimes! I love slimes! So squishy, so cute, so slimy, what's not to love? Man, you should have seen how excited I was when I saw Dory had a slime she rode around on. Now, with all that said, why the hell haven't I actually built Dory yet? Alhaitham. Talk about a turnaround. We're jumping from one of the most unique characters in the game into what's basically an echo fighter. First things first, I love Alhaitham in the Archon quests. His melodramatic attitude and blunt way of talking to people foils the Traveler and Paimon perfectly. He absolutely steals the show whenever he's on screen, and since he's one of the main characters of this chapter, that's a lot of time. I just couldn't get enough of him. Which is why it hurt me so much when he got released as Green Kaching. They really went and took the most interesting character and gave him the most uninspired moveset possible. Talk about character assassination. Yeah, he's good. Like, insanely good. But do I really need a vegan Kaching when I haven't even built my lavender flavored one? I doubt it. Oh well. Boring as it may be in gameplay, it won't stop me from slurping up every last ounce of him again in quests and events. Sino. Anyone else getting the sense of deja vu? Yeah, Sino's kinda just an upgraded Razor. He's mechanically more interesting and a lot better as an actual unit, but I have a fully built Razor and I see no reason to get a second one. Luckily, much like Alhaitham, Sino more than makes up for his actual character. He also has a really blunt way of talking where he just gets right to the point of whatever he's trying to say, which 9 times out of 10 is a threat to somebody. Everyone in the nation is deathly afraid of Sino, so whenever he's speaking to an enemy, he feels like a real menace and it's a ton of fun to watch. But he's even more fun to watch when talking with friends. Not only is he a trading card nerd, but he makes puns. Lots of them. The in-universe cast may hate them, but I can't get enough of these things. Layla. It's fitting that Layla's character is always hard, because even thinking about her is putting me to sleep. Wow, is that a cryo shielding with shield strength scaling off HP and damage over time as a burst? I've never seen that one before. Well, maybe our character's interesting then. Nope. Or it might be, I genuinely wouldn't know. Not because I haven't seen her, I did the whole Academia contest event. But I think I legitimately skipped over every single line she spoke because of her voice. My lord, is it obnoxious. Everything she says is so airy and she sort of extends each word out. So you gotta hear her talk for about 1.3 times as long as you should. Additionally, her voice is so damn high that it becomes grating to listen to after a line or two. And paired with how long she talks for, it's probably best to just mute the game whenever she's on screen. No hate to the VA though. I'm sure she's a talented lady, and I'm just gonna blame the voice direction on this one. At least her design is legitimately great. Faruzan. Man, I could use a break from all the talking, so it's a good thing Faruzan is next. I don't like her very much as a character, and she's really boring in gameplay. She is useful, especially if you have 4 animo DPS characters like me. No way you seriously have this many. Jeez. Plus, I think this cool, like, holographic little dodecahedrons. Nice that Faruzan has some style, despite her Taylor's best efforts. Candace. Man, was I hyped to see the first proper shield in game. They're the coolest medieval weapon. Right, shame we got stuck on Candace then. She's got such a boring ass moveset that I just couldn't be bothered to even attempt to build her. She's not a bad character, but rather dull. Just very unremarkable all around. Dia. Much like Kale, my expectations of Dia were not high. Maybe just been scarred from the last game with a murky mercenary, but I was expecting her to be bland as unseasoned toast. But color me surprised, she's actually a pretty cool character. Far from the most interesting game, but much better than what I was expecting. She's a mercenary who lives by mercenary code, which yet again contrasts the main duo. But she actually has her own moral compass, goals, ideals, and personality, unlike a certain someone I know. Plus, her design is one of the best in the game. Yeah, she isn't wearing much, but it does make sense since she's from the desert, and what she does have is awesome. The red and black color scheme is always a favorite of mine. Man, if I was praised for anything bad I can say about Dia, yeah, she kinda sucks ass in gameplay. The third Pyro Greatsword, for some reason, is so clearly meant to be a main DPS, yet works 30 times better as a sub, and even then, she's not great. I still try to use her with Heizumi and it kinda works, almost, well, whatever. Sumeru's had a great record of characters thus far. Yeah, there's been some bumps in the road, but none of them close to as bad as some of the most hated characters from other nations. I mean, they have to pull out some really terrible character now for me to even think about putting this nation as anything but my favorite one. Nilou. I know I just did this, but I'd really like to take a moment to properly apologize. There were a lot of characters in the original video, and even this one they said were bad, or they didn't like, or they called me least favorite. Yanfei, Shingsho, Kokomi, Layla, they all deserve a proper apology. Because all of them are leagues better than Nilou. Oh my lord, I don't think I've seen a more obnoxious character in my entire life. People of Sumeru don't really worship a god, so instead they decided Nilou's the next best thing. Nilou is treated as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everybody's always singing her praises, showering her with gifts, inviting her to kiss their babies, sacrificing children to her, you name it. No matter what she's up to, what the situation is, people will constantly hold her up like some almighty being. It is utterly obnoxious. It makes every interaction with her play out exactly the same. Hey, Nilou, I just so happened to get a few extra gold bars in my ship, and I couldn't possibly think of anything else to do with them, so take them.
Oh, no, I could possibly.
Nah, take them all, our almighty God who will bless our crops and everything else.
Well, I mean, if you insist.
It's such a pathetic way of showing off the character, and unfortunately, that's all she has. Thing is, as far as Nilou's character goes, she doesn't have anything actually interesting going on. So the game just constantly tells you she's really cool through a bunch of NPCs who worship her, while never actually giving them a reason to, aside from doing a few mediocre dance moves. It's pathetic. I couldn't stand this twat by the end of chapter 3-2, but then I actually started a story quest and I was locked out. He doesn't tell me, so I had to sit through that too. And let me tell you, it makes Kokomi's story quest look like Shakespeare. Nilou and her friends know the theater might be torn down if they don't pay some bill or something, because I don't care. So she has to prove the theater is good. The thing is, I don't care about Nilou or her stupid traveling party, so the stakes are so low you have to dig them up with a shovel. But my god, spending extended time with Nilou shows you just how boring she really is. She doesn't have nearly enough character to stand on her own 2 feet, and the writers knew this, so she takes a backseat in her own story quest. I want to reiterate this. They made a character with so little going on, they had to make a new NPC to be the star of her story quest. Do you see my problem with this character now? Much like Layla in the Big Cup competition thing, I ended up skipping over every single line dialogue Nilou had. Not because I can't stand her voice, as the VA did the best with what she was given, but because I couldn't stand her presence. Thankfully, she's one of the less relevant characters in Sumeru, so hopefully we won't see too much of her in the future. You know, I had to write this section of the video twice over. The first time I wrote it, I actually wrote about an entirely different character, that being the star of Nilou's story quest, and only when editing through it I realized I was talking about the wrong character. While this could just be me being an idiot, I don't think that's the case. With how nothing Nilou is, I think my brain naturally latched onto the actual character we got in her story quest, and I just assumed it was her, in hopes to erase the boring ass character that we actually got. And you know what? I think I prefer when she was anybody else. Nilou is a character the writers don't know what to do with, or how to implement in the story, so they didn't really try. They just assumed that if everyone told you how awesome Nilou was, mob mentality would take over and tell you she's a really cool character. But if you look past that, you're left with a blank slate that has no right to be as revered as she is. So she can do some mediocre dance moves. Awesome. Does that mean people should sing her praises more than General Mahamatra or a genius architect? I doubt it. In case you couldn't tell from my insane ramblings, Nilou is far and away my least favorite character in the game. My other least favorites at least have something to help them stand out, and have their own identity. Even if I don't like the identity too much, they at least try to have something, so I can see what people latch on to them. But Nilou, I don't get it. I truly don't. She is a less than nothing character who desperately wants to be important, and the game tries to make you think she is, despite the fact that she's simply not. She's an unfinished character who should have been revised a few dozen times before being added. You know, it's kind of funny. Sumeru's whole arc on quest was trying to stop the Balladeer from becoming a false god, replacing Nahida, and yet here we are with this pathetic dancer getting endless praise and worship, who seems to be, and sometimes is, the most important person in the nation. Makes you wonder who the real villain here is, huh? Kaveh. Kaveh feels like a perfectly designed character, no joke. This guy has one simple mechanic that works so brilliantly, and his kid is built around using that to his full advantage. He can detonate Dendro cores from Bloom with his skill, and everything else he has works to support this. His burst imbues him with Dendro so he can make more cores, his talents help to boost his EM and Dendro res, and his constellations just do more of that. What makes him work so damn well is his simplicity. Kaveh doesn't need massive walls of text explaining some weird niche mechanic he has, or some wacky second stage intros that changes his gameplay. He simply blows up Dendro cores. Sometimes, less is more. Plus makes Bloom feel like a much better reaction on its own. In my reaction video, I said that Bloom feels weak, because it only functions as a bridge for Hyper Bloom and Burgeon. And then along comes this guy, giving Bloom a whole new identity. The idea of building a character focused on turning this middleman reaction into its own thing is ingenious. I'm amazed it took them so long to make a character built around it. Anyways, I came to this banner wanting Baizu, but I think I walked away a lot happier than I would have been, thanks to this fantastically designed, briefcase-wielding weirdo. Nahida. The Archons have had a pretty clean record as far as being great characters, and Nahida is no exception. If anything, she's probably my favorite one. The Goddess of Wisdom is ever curious about the world, and has such a weird way of looking at things, and even weirder way of explaining them. Any conversation with her is going to require a bit more attention than most, trying to understand her bizarre metaphors. Nahida also feels like the Archon who does the most for the story, though the competition for that isn't that fierce, considering two of them do almost nothing and the other one is the villain of their arc. And her story quest, oh man, I could go on about that one all day. The second one, that is. The first one sucks. Pair that with an awesome design and everything that happens at the end of the Sumeru Archon quest with Irminsul, and yeah, it's still one of the Dendro Archons, one of my favorite characters. Additionally, compared to the other Archons, she feels like the most caring one. She looks out for the people of her nation more than all the other Archons combined, and is willing to help and guide poor lost souls. Like the last character we'll look at, Wanderer. Well, if it is old Scaramouche slash Baldier slash Kabukimono slash Wanderer slash Fill in the Blank slash Hat Guy, there is so much you want to pack about this guy. But there's a slight problem with that. The Balladeer is, without doubt, my favorite character in this game, and has elevated himself to become one of my favorite characters ever written, no joke. He's got such a rich backstory, betrayal, and injustice, always getting taken advantage of or screwed over by powers greater than himself. He's got such a great personality, completely contrasting everyone else in the cast by being a prick to everybody. It makes him stick out a ton, makes him super fun to have conversations with, and it makes it really interesting whenever he tones that down and talks to one he genuinely respects, like Nahida. His quest is absolutely amazing, and everything that happens there feels like a perfect conclusion to his tragic character, putting him in the bittersweet but very fitting state he's in now as the aimless wanderer. I love that he's the guy you get to name. He's a controversial character with a sharp tongue. I can see why some dislike him, and I can see why others, like myself, love him. Getting to name the guy who can go both ways is amazing. I could talk about how brilliant this guy is for hours, but the thing is, I think that going on some huge rant about how emotionally affected I was by an amazing story quest would contrast the tone of this video so much it'd probably spawn a singularity. I might talk about it at length in the future, but for now, Funny Hat Man. His hat is amazing. It's so large and circular and cool, and apparently heavy because upon taking it off, he can fly. He nerfs himself by wearing the biggest hat in the world, and that is why the Man of Many Names is my favorite character in Genshin Impact. And that covers everyone presently in the game. There were some high highs and low lows, but I feel like the cast of this game is expanding nicely, and overall, Sumeru is definitely a favorite nation, character-wise, even there are some, let's call them, rough spots. Someday in the future, I'll make another updated version of the list. Maybe once Fontaine is finished, maybe later, who knows. Either way, in the meantime, I'll definitely work on more videos of this game, because I never actually make videos on it, despite how much I play it. If you want to see those, maybe consider subscribing. The red button won't bite back, I think. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Deuces.